All right, so since we talked about this in chapter 1, should be somewhat of a review to you. How does the theory of evolution relate to psychology? Here we go. Talked about that evolutionary theory in chapter 1. What's up? Is this the second one?
Yeah, it's only the second one.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check them today. Put that new grade in there, please. Yeah, 1 second. Go. After day 2, right? Just 2? Okay. Haley, good game the other day. You have a hat trick. Nice. Congratulations. That's awesome. We got to put that up next week. All right. So, how does the theory of evolution relate to psychology? What do we got? So, we talked a little bit about this in the first chapter. We're talking and discussing about perspectives of psychology. So, what do we have for this? I'll have to call on someone here. Raven?
Some psychologists believe that natural responses to stimuli and experiences as a result of evolution heredity, or that the way we think is a product of one of our ancestors.
Yeah, good job. So we'll talk about that nature versus nurture aspect where evolutionary psych is kind of won't say frowned upon with the evolutionary theory and psychology because of the focus more on nature rather than nurture. Okay, I know we talked about that in the first chapter, but with the evolutionary theory, how we adapt over time and how our behaviors, our personalities, maybe heredity, right? And how that is inherited to us from our parents. And through natural selection, maybe how some traits, characteristics, behaviors, and different types of developments and cognitive development maybe have been eliminated over time through this evolutionary process from our parents. All right, good job, good job. So that's how the theory of evolution relates to psychology. How our consciousness, how our development has maybe changed over time because of evolution, because how we are selecting certain traits, natural traits that evolve to us from our parents over time, how our practices, our beliefs, our development has altered. Good. All right, terms for today. So this is pretty much review for you guys. I'm sure you've talked about this a lot in science, so I'm not going to focus too heavy on it. I want to get you working on the assignment about gene manipulation. We have genotype, phenotype, heredity, genes, chromosomes. There you go. There you go. This one. I might be missing one here. Let's see. Yeah, I think I already have natural selection though for you from the other day. Yeah, all right, but it's up there if you didn't get it down the other day or not. Go ahead, Connor. We good? All right. So let's move on here today. So we left off on Wednesday talking about the theory of evolution and how that's a respected field, respected theory, and how this applies to psychology. Okay. And I know I talked about a little bit of Antonio Alfonsenzgo. I thought it was a pretty neat story, which towards the end of the day today, you're going to be reading about an article of gene manipulation, and you're going to have just a page paper that you're going to write about gene manipulation, if it's ethical, if it's reasonable or not, and maybe if you have kids, what type of genetics genes you would like to pass on. So we'll get to that soon enough. All right, so we talked a little bit about the wrong-headed theory as well, okay, and how people in the 1800s thought, well, we could study the mind a little bit more in detail and understand the processes, the consciousness development, emotions, characteristics, movements can all be placed within the brain. Yeah, phrenology, that's pseudoscience, something that we should maybe not study too much in detail. We can look back and laugh at it. I know I talked about the Mark Twain story where he disguised himself and went to different locations where phrenologists gave him a different report every time he went. But with phrenology, again, it took a little bit closer look to the mind and how we can use this technology that we have today and apply it and study it a little bit more in detail and realize, yeah, these functions, these abilities, senses, movements all do occur and start with the brain. All right, so the role of evolution. So the role of evolution, guys already heard of this, I'm sure, before, and how this theory has been maybe accepted in some locations and throughout American history. I'm sure you heard of the Scopes trial before, where in some locations, maybe not so much respect because the tendencies, the clash between religion and theories of science. And this evolutionary theory, just how we adapt over time to fit our environment, how natural selection occurs, where certain traits, okay, certain characteristics, genes that kind of last on more and more to other generations because of their survival and their certain environment. So this theory of evolution, we already know this. You guys heard of it before, and how it's applied to psychology, and how these characteristics, these developments, these characters, these behaviors, obviously fit into the study of psychology. Again, more focused on the nature aspect rather than the nurture. That's why some psychologists kind of view evolution a little bit too focused on one end rather than the other, not a combination of both. So natural selection, you guys already heard this before. Again, those who fit in their environment, these certain characteristics will last on. These certain traits will last on to the next generation to help survive in their environment. Okay, those who do not have these certain traits will die off. The survival of the fittest. And if you take me for sociology, we'll talk about how this is applied to certain countries through this industrial age and through modernization. Okay, and this technological advancement in certain countries and how it's applied to this imperialistic state, this age of imperialism. So again, this evolutionary theory is applied to many different sectors of psychology, which sociology is a branch of psychology. Now it is a respected field, a respected theory. Natural selection, we all good on that? Okay, again, a term that you already researched, so you should be good. So misconceptions about evolution. So there's two of them that many people think of. Darwin said humans come from monkeys. No, well, there's just an ancestor. There's a common ancestor millions of years ago that resulted in this belief that, oh, he said that we came from monkeys. No, that's not the case. We just had a common ancestor. You guys ever see South Park before? There's a certain episode where they talk about the theory of evolution and kind of make fun of it the way is thought and believed of where we came from, which is kind of funny. I'm not going to show it because it's a little R-rated, so you guys can check it out on your own. Behavior can alter heredity. Well, again, through natural selection, these common traits, these characteristics pass on from generation to the next. Okay. And I just talked about brains and communication. It's like, no, well, it's just the ability to communicate, which lasts on and allowed us to survive in our environment to, again, be passed on to our offspring to help us survive in our environment. So evolution has accepted theory. So again, this idea of nature versus nurture, whenever psychology is brought up, that's the first thing that's thought about. And is it something that's passed on from our parents? Is it heredity? Or is it actually nurture? What we understand and pick up and learn, development through our time and experiences in our certain environment. Evolution relies heavy on nature. Doesn't really focus too much on the behavioral side where we learn and understand and to fit in our certain environment, which again, sociology kind of conflicts with that. Sociology is that idea where we are suited in our culture and we develop these characteristics, these behaviors, these personalities, how we grow up, and how we develop with interaction with our environment, how we learn, how we process. It's not just solely based on this idea of heredity. That's why, again, psychologists kind of view evolution as like, well, it's respected, but we need to balance a little bit more on nurture as well. And you understand that there's cognitive developments that we have through our environment, through our interactions. All right, so genetics and inheritance. Again, you guys know a little bit about this already, I'm sure. Genotype and phenotype, these two categories that fit into how we're developed and how we inherit certain traits from our parents. Whether it's dominant, whether it's recessive traits, for the most part, the dominant traits occur, but in some cases, recessive does appear. So with genotype and phenotype, we have an organism's genetic makeup as genotype, the blueprint for what an organism is. So you're looking at the gene, when you're looking at the structure, this is the chemical makeup. Phenotype is the physical characteristics that appears. So physical characteristics that might be like eye color, hair color. Genotype and phenotype, how that passes on from our parents, these certain dominant traits mostly. In certain cases, we have a recessive. I'm sure you guys know the squares here as well. I like doing those sometimes. Pretty relaxing. Hadley, you like doing fun of squares? Not bad. In my college course, they advanced a little bit more to certain sections. There's four different letters. And I was like, oh man, it's getting a little crazy here now. All right, so heredity environments, like I mentioned with this nature versus nurture idea, is we need to focus a little bit more on our environment and understand how we can learn from our environment to survive. It's not solely based on the traits that are given to us, the characteristics that are given to us, our genes. We actually learn. We develop awareness of our surroundings, where we can focus a little bit more on our survival in this environment by learning, developing a cognitive background of our surroundings. And that's the biggest clash with psychology and the theory of evolution. Theory of evolution doesn't focus too much on that cognitive development, the nurture aspect of psychology. You guys good with that? Okay. So with chromosomes, genes, here we go. So segment chromosome that encodes the directions for inherited physical and mental characteristics. So in a way, the easy to understand is genes are the words that make up the organism's instruction manual. So this is the genes, the chemical makeup of certain traits, characteristics, or the way we act, the way we look. So the words that make up the sentence. Chromosomes are the thread-like structure that almost act like the punctuation, act like the really the string of words that make up that sentence. So how they're organized. Again, review for most of you, so I'm just going to kind of zoom through this. Genes and chromosomes, genotype and phenotype. It's all pretty much review for all of you. And finally, I like to assign the debate of the future. So with genetic altercation, with genetic manipulation, there's always this idea that we can maybe have these dominant traits within our children and maybe adapt them genetically to maybe have an advantage in life. In some cases, could be good, right? Could help with in case there's a certain disease or a trait that could cause issues for their future. In some cases, it's really unethical, right? You can't make these superhumans in a way. And I always think back to Jurassic Park when I assign this activity. I'm a big Jurassic Park fan, right from the broadcast. You guys were playing the Raptors last week, but we all know how that fared out for the people of Jurassic Park, making these dinosaurs out of what, frog DNA, mosquito DNA. Is crazy. Didn't work out too well. But here's the assignment that I have for you guys. It's really just based off of genetics, okay, manipulation. It's just something to think about, really. Something to think about where we're at today with sciences and how we can maybe perform some of these things. Go to modules. It's called Gene Genies. So you're going to read the article. And again, it's kind of reflected on sports and how the abilities could maybe be altered to advance these athletes, maybe, right? Have our kids be professional athletes through genetic manipulation. So you're just going to read this article here, guys. And then you're going to complete the assignment, which is a half-page paper, double-spaced, it's a page, where you're going to pick 3 genetic traits for your child, and what they would be. 2, if you knew were a possible carrier of a genetic disorder, would you want to be tested before having children? Why or why not? And 3, develop an argument supporting genetic manipulation and an argument against genetic manipulation. So it's really just supposed to be a half page, double spaced is the page. But if it goes further, that's fine. Obviously, the more, the better. And for the citation of the article, just format an APA. Okay, you don't have to have in-text citations. That's fine. If you want to, you can. But for the most part, you can just cite the source at the end for the citation page. Just make sure you put your name on it, obviously, in the top left hand. If you have multiple pages, put page numbers, obviously, in the top right. And that's what I got for you. So you can read over that a little bit more in detail. But again, I guess you could say, knowing of this certain topic. It could be maybe offensive to some. So make sure you guys are particular. We're not going to try to hurt anybody's feelings here with this. So when we do talk about them on Monday, when you guys discuss and present your genetic traits that you want to try to give off, or what you believe about genetic manipulation, just be knowing of the audience. Okay, let's not try to cause an uproar here. It's not what I'm looking for. All right, could be a sensitive topic is what I'm saying. All righty, there you go. Yeah, working.